So that's inflationary, both of those things. I mean, getting rid of cheap labor is inflationary. Obviously, tariffs are very inflationary. How much inflation does this mean?
More, significantly more. The Fed hasn't quite managed to get the inflation back down to its 2% target.
Right.
It was on track to doing that, but this would knock it well above its 2% inflation target.
It means higher interest rates.
Which means the Fed would start hiking interest rates again, rather than cutting interest rates, as they're expected to do, as they have been expected to do. And if the Fed starts hiking interest rates, this is going to make the dollar stronger.
Yep.
The dollar's already moved up, but President Trump wants the dollar to be weak.
Right.
He wants to have high tariffs. He wants to deport workers. He wants to cut taxes and stimulate the economy that way, which would be inflationary, but it would make the economy grow faster. And at the same time, he wants a weak dollar. You really can't have all of those.
Right. Those are interrelated. And
Right.
yeah.
Unless President Trump can find a way to take over monetary policy.
Right. Okay, so here's Trump ending Fed. He doesn't have to he can't fire Powell. Okay. And Powell said he would not step down. I loved his answer. No. Right. But if you just outright somehow end the Fed completely, which, I mean, how would he do that?
A few weeks ago, I made a macro watch video called "Will Trump End the Fed?"
Yeah.
Okay, let's go through this a few steps. If he can bend the Fed to his will and just make them do what he wants, which he can't, not immediately, because in theory he's not supposed to be able to fire any of them.
Right.
And Jerome Powell's term doesn't expire until I think May next year, May 2026, and the others are all staggered over a number of years. So he called
all the other the open market committee members right here. So it's not just about Powell. Of course, he's just the chairman.
That's right. There's 7 Fed governors, 12 presidents of the Federal Reserve ranks.
Yeah.
To take turns voting on interest rates. So that would be difficult to bend them to his will. Although, who knows what Trump might do.
Yeah.
He won the presidency. He got control of both houses of Congress, and he has a 6-3 majority on the Supreme Court.
Yeah. No, he's got a 2-year run. He's just going to pass everything he wants.
The only thing he doesn't have control over is monetary policy. And he may decide he wants that too. So if they can't bend the Fed to his will, ideally he would, even if there is inflation, he would still like to have the Fed cut interest rates so that the dollar would fall, or maybe do quantitative easing. The more QE you do, the more dollars there are, then that would tend to put downward pressure on the dollar as well, as long as you're not worried about taming inflation.
Yep.
So what else could he do if he can't bend the Fed to his will? Let's look back to what happened in the 19th century. The Fed didn't come into existence until 1913. It started operations in 1914. In the 19th century, the Treasury Department issued the currency, Treasury currency.
Right, but we have 2 other central banks in the country. I don't know much about them.
Yeah, the first one, I think, ended in 1834 or something like that, followed by a depression, by the way.
So 30 years before the Civil War. Yeah.
Right. And after that, there wasn't much. There was nothing. So during all of that time, private sector banks issued bank currency, and there was money circulating as gold and silver formed part of the currency.
Mm-hmm.
But when the Civil War started, the Treasury Department issued treasury notes. And by the time the Civil War ended, 43% of all the currency had been issued was paper money that the Treasury Department had issued.
Wow.
And there was another big round of Treasury currency being issued as United States notes in the early 1890s. So President Trump will have direct control over the Treasury Department. So he could instruct the Treasury Department to begin issuing Treasury currency again.
To compete with the Fed.
But the Fed wants to do quantitative tightening and destroy money. You could just have the Treasury create twice as much money as the Fed destroys and effectively take control of monetary policy away from the Fed.
It's that easy, Trey.
Well, so this would probably require some sort of congressional act to make this leap forward.
In the first 2 years, he might get it. I don't know. That's pretty extreme.
Possibly. I don't know. I mean, and just one pesky senator could pull a filibuster and stop any necessary legislation from passing.
Right.
But there's a workaround. I think in the mid-1990s, a law was passed and still in effect that gives the U.S. Treasury Secretary the authorization to print any platinum coin of any denomination of his choosing.